Good morning. I am Alok Shrivastava, born and brought up in Lucknow, but now settled in Delhi for last 40 years. I am an academician now and deeply uh, appalled and anguished to see what has happened in the country since the 13th or 14th of December, after the announcement of the CAB being passed and turned into a CAA, which is the Citizenship Amendment Act, now in force. Uh, Now, my take on the situation is that this act has been passed by a majority in Lok Sabha, and has also passed through the Rajya Sabha, and now formed as per the constitution and law. Uh, Anyway, that is one point. The other is that basically initially all this is a problem, or issue had started from the issue in Assam and the whole of Northeast. We also understand that after the formation of Bangladesh in 1971, there have been a huge influx of immigrants from Bangladesh into Northeast, having disturbed the demography of most of those states there. Now, this it is important to understand that this law was passed, but subsequently many amendments also have been accepted by the government, and they have retrieved back a little to accommodate the main issues pointed out by those states. For example, Assam has an issue of losing their identity in terms of their own language and culture, and because of the heavy settlement of Bangladeshis and others into their state. In a way, it is justified, and now the government has tried to also include some of the tribal areas there into the inner line permit, with the result of which no more immigrants will be allowed to enter into that state. Having said that, the other states as well, for example, Manipur and Tripura and Meghalaya, etc., they also have been majorly included in the inner line permit, and things have more or less come to a settlement, and the agitation or the protests have somewhat subsided. So that was the main issue, but subsequently it appears that the politicians in our country have has stoked unnecessary agitation and protest, and turned this issue into anti-Muslim kind of agitation. So it so happened that in Jamia Millia University of Delhi, there were some students probably backing up, but a majority of the people who are rather illiterate and who do not understand the subject, and live in the neighborhood colony of Jamia Nagar, etc., Batla House, and so on. they were basically instigated by the politicians to rake up this issue, and hence it took a violent turn. Uh, the main fault has been that neither the present government nor the academicians or others, the students, took to actually deeply study the act, and and understand the nuances of the act, which however were quite complicated, and the CAB turned into CAA, and then it connected with the NPR, and so on, which were difficult to understand in any case by a majority of people who did not actually examine the issues, and just jumped into the agitation part of it. Having said that, my responsibility as a responsible citizen, I am now conveying my views across on this issue, and it is, I think, it is the responsibility for all responsible citizens to air their view, and to see how these issues and the protest and the agitation is brought down to rest. Now, the fear mongering of this act being against Muslims is absolutely ridiculous, as so far as the original CAA is concerned. It has been very vehemently announced by the intellectuals and the politicians and everybody that, look, this particular act is only applies, the CAA only applies to the Indian citizens who have been given a little relaxation in terms of applying for regularizing their citizenship, and the deadline has been cut short to December 2014, and it has nothing to do with the influx of any new so-called immigrants or refugees. It is very clear that this CAA Act applies to all non-Muslims who have entered into the country and waiting for years to get a Indian citizenship, and they are the ones who originally belong to India, and they want to now return to the country because of being persecuted overseas, in those three countries which have been declared as Islamic nations, and the requirement is that they must follow the Sharia law. These persecuted people are the ones who are being given relief by this particular act. Now, unfortunately, it is the governing government in West Bengal, which is Mamata Banerjee, and the main role has been played by her, as she can see that in the Lok Sabha elections which went past, she is losing ground, and BJP has won a number of seats, which they never did earlier. Now that she is feeling threatened that in the 2021 elections coming up for the state assembly, she may really suffer a serious defeat, and so she is propping up this issue of protesting against the CAA. Helped by other no, anti-national people whom she finds support in. This issue has taken a very dangerous position. My take on this would be that first of all, as now every party is announcing that the protest should be peaceful and there should be no violence, which has taken a few death tolls also. But this has come a little far too late and should have been announced earlier. However, there were some vested interests who did not want to appeal to the people and rather stoked passions on the grounds of this CAA being anti-national, and hence the situation deteriorated. I would say that now the government is also retrieving back some of its flaws in the CAA, and the hence the opposition, which has all got together to throw out the ruling BJP government, and who are so anti Mr. Modi that they should actually consider being a little less aggressive and denounce their anti-national activities, as I would say that under the leadership of Mr. Modi, the country has by his big ticket reforms, so far as triple talaq or Pulwama, or reforms in other fields, the country has been in under progress. But yes, there has been a global turn down so far as economics is concerned, and hence we need to give a little space for Modi ji to work on those issues and see how things can improve. The only thing which really deeply hurts me is that the student community, which has been actually a little lax in studying the whole act, and even most of the faculty members and intellectuals did not take time to study the nuances of the act and to guide the students properly about what the benefits of the act were, which has been there in the history since it's not a new act. It is just a simple amendment of the act which has been there in place since the time of independence, and the subsequent ruling governments like Congress, etc., had actually supported this bill and approved of it in 2003, 2004, and then subsequently 2015, etc. The only thing is that this political misguiding of the electorate for just being in power is not the right thing to do. We have to look at the interest of the nation first, and the and take the country forward in the highly competitive global environment. We have climbed some 60 steps ahead on the ease of doing business. We are now into, by all the policies announced by Mr. Modi, as Make in India or Startup India, and he's done a tremendous job so far as Swachh Bharat is concerned, and then having reached out the electricity to the remotest part of the villages and countries, having reached out and made inroads into made roads into villages deep inside, and facilitating the poor by way of announcing this particular Ayushman Bharat scheme for health. I think these are all things which have been thought of by Mr. Modi, and which was rather left unattended at all by the Congress, which ruled the country since last 70 years, and they were just doing armchair politics and never thought of welfare schemes for the general public. So what they say is that the issues are very serious, and the worst part is that do we understand, do these protesters and miscreants and uneducated people, do they understand that that they are protesting and damaging the public property or the private property which is their own, and they go ahead and indulge in violence and burn vehicles and burn police stations? Well, the police people or the or the paramilitary forces which have been engaged, which are doing their duty to curb violence, they are also, after all, members of your own. They could also be members of your own family. They may be brothers or sisters of your own, and you are cornering them and stoning them, and this is just not acceptable. This is most highly objectionable, and you are attacking them for doing their duty. After all, they are not mad. They have been entrusted with a duty, and they are not after all lathi charging you or stopping you or scuffling with you for no reason. You are the protesters are the one who are out on the street and facilitated by these politicians in arranging for bricks and stones. I mean, what kind of machoism are these protesters basically exhibiting? Are they following are they taking pride in stone pelting of the policemen, like those misguided youth in Kashmir? Or they are taking the example of Palestine, which are different issues. We are not we have no situation like that in India, and this must stop. So my appeal to all responsible citizens would be to somehow go out and clarify and console all these protesters and people, and explain to them that this is not an anti-national act which has been brought in. Yes, now their concern is about the application of NPR, which is the National Population Register. Every 10 years there is a census, and which will be started as usual. Nothing is unusual, which will start, which is due for starting in the 2000 starting from I think February 2020 or something. So again, there is no reason for anyone to protest. And so far as National Citizenship Register, that is NCR, is concerned, yes, we must understand that this NCR, it all started with Assam, and definitely, the enumeration were not properly done, and they asked for a lot of documents which was illogical, and hence now there has been revision, and the government is going back to the table and trying to figure out and find solutions to rectify what were their flaws and what were their mistakes. So let us give this a time. The NCR issue is also now has been gone to the cabinet committee, and they are re-examining the issues. It has not been implemented yet. So as the government is saying and is proposing that it will be looked into, and then only put up for NCR all over the country. Whether it needs to be put all over the country will also be examined, but so far as the northeast, whole of northeast is concerned, certainly it was a huge debacle, and the person put in charge of the NCR enumeration was taken away, and you need to have well-trained, educated people to carry out the enumeration, so that the census and the citizens or non-citizens can be identified, and hence the problem can be solved. Thank you, and my last appeal is to maintain peace in the interest of the nation. The forces are just doing their duty, and hence we should be thankful for them to safeguard our interest, and to the armed forces who's safeguarding the country, which and doing their duty in such harsh conditions as Siachen, etc. You can imagine that all those people who pledge their life to the nation needs to be respected, and not stoned or fired at or kicked around, which is most anti-national activity that one can think of. Jai Hind.